Good morning guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Hannah and we are going to be doing some sewing today. It's been a long time since I've sat down and chatted to you, which I've missed so much, so thank you for coming back and joining me. And today I'm going to take you through a bit of a sewing tutorial. So we're going to be making some wide leg trousers, and the pattern that I'm making is this Vogue one. I'll link it in the description below. And I'm making this middle pair, which are just a basic wide leg trouser. I think some of the others have splits down the front, but we're just going for the normal version here. And I'm going to be making it out of a grey linen fabric, which again I'll link what I've got down in the description below. I'm hoping it will work quite well, but it's quite a thin one, so it's definitely more of like a summer trouser that we're aiming for. And then the only other thing we need is a zip, which I can't remember how long this is, but hopefully I'll pop it on the screen or link it in the description down below. So that's what we need for these. Hopefully they'll be quite simple, but I'll take you along for like the measuring up, how I alter the pattern, how I fit it to myself, how I'm dealing with the seams, all of that sort of stuff. So I hope you're excited. Okay, so we have grabbed a measuring tape and we're going to look at doing the measurements that I need for this pattern. So it gives you a list of measurements inside the pattern and the sizes these relate to. So as a reference, I am 5'9" and a UK size 8. Pattern measurements and sizes don't correlate to UK sizes or American sizes. So it's really important that you take the measurement and you go off these measurements, even if you think it's a much bigger size than you should be. So I'm going to take my waist measurements, and I'm going to show you how to take the hip measurements, but I won't do this on camera because realistically you kind of just want to be in your underwear. We'll do that off camera, but I'll show you how to take the waist and I'll show you where the hip measurement would be taken as well. I'm also going to look at a length measurement. Being 5'8", 5'9", I've got quite long legs, so I want to make sure that the trousers are going to be long enough. I also envisage wearing these with a pair of heels, so I'll take that into account as well, and make sure that the length between the waist and the crotch is right as well, so it sits properly high-waisted as I want them to. So waist measurement is going to be taken in inches, and it's the smallest part of your waist. Also, you want to be stood nice and naturally. You don't want to be breathing in, because however much it might feel better if you're like, oh, I can get it this small, the garment won't fit and it will have been a waste of fabric. So you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of breathing room and that you're standing nice and natural. And my waist there is coming in at about 27 inches. So I'm going to write that one down. For then hip measurements, it wants to be the widest part of your bum and hips. So this should be about 6 inches down from your belly button. And then if you go around that point, and again look in inches, you want to be stood nice and naturally, around the widest point of your hips, and with jeans on that's coming in at about 39 inches. I'm also going to take from the crotch to the floor, but I'm going to have to wait until I've got somebody to help me with this, just to make sure that I get the measurement right. And I will also take from my waist to my crotch, which is about 11 inches. So I will write that one down as well. I have taken those measurements. I've got waist is at 27, hips are at 38. Also, I said 6 inches below the belly button. It's actually 8 inches below the belly button. I've just checked. Waist to crotch I got as 11 inches. I got the inside leg, which is crotch down to the floor, as 32.5 inches. And what I've called the outside leg, it might not be professionally called that, but that's from the waist and then down the outside, down to the floor. And I got that as 44 inches. So I'm now looking at the body measurements chart in here, and I am between a size 12 and a 14 on here. So I'm going to cut the pattern to a size 14, as that is 1 inch larger on the waist, but the correct measurements on the hips and we will look at the length and what we think the length of the pattern is once we unfold that and start cutting it. I have just cut out all the pattern pieces for this pair of trousers and have ironed them flat, so they're not all in their folded state that they were. And so now I am looking at the length of the pattern and how much the leg length needs lengthening. So what we've got is, we have on the pattern, they have put in the lines where you cut to lengthen. So that's nice and helpful. So if the waist needs moving up a bit, then you cut that on that line. And if the leg length needs lengthening, you cut down that line and then add in some paper. So I have looked at the measurement from the waistline to the crotch. So they've kindly marked these on, and that is the correct measurement for my waist currently. I was expecting to lengthen this, but I don't think I need to. But I'm a little bit like, fingers crossed, let's hope that it's the right size. Leg length, however, does need lengthening. So I'll show you how I'm measuring it and how much I'm going to add in. Okay, so I'm hoping you can kind of see the pattern and a few of the markings on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the crotch line of size 14, which is here, to the bottom and see how long this is. So currently this is about 31.5 inches. So from my measurements I worked out that from my crotch line to the floor it was 32.5 inches. So we need to definitely lengthen this, and we need to allow for a seam allowance on the hem as well. So if this is 31.5 inches, that would be about 31 inches without a allowing for the seam allowance. So I am thinking, to make sure it's long enough, plus I want to wear it in heels, I'll probably add 2 inches into these pattern pieces, and I'll do the same for all 4 pieces. Also, it's easier if you're slightly worried about it fitting, add the fabric in, because you can make things shorter, whereas you can't make things longer once you've made the garment. So I might add maybe like an inch into the waistline as well, just to be sure. I've got the fabric to do that, and I'd rather err on the side of caution and add it in rather than not add it in and then not have it fit how I want to. I have altered the pattern now. I'll show you one of the leg pieces here. I've done the same for all the leg panels. And I have taken my own advice and erred on the side of caution and added an inch in for the crotch to waist measurement, and then I have added 2 inches in for the leg length. I've just added these with some baking paper and masking tape. Newspaper is also great for altering patterns, but we don't have any old ones spare. So that's what I've done here, and now it's going to be time to cut the pattern. I'm sorry about the lighting, I'm sat in the orangery because my personal lighting is easiest to see, but it has got some shadows and stuff because it's a beautiful sunny day today. So I'm going to cut these pattern pieces out and then I will show you how I'm going to be constructing it. Okay guys, so we're going to start on the sewing now. I'm not going to talk you through every step of it, so like this piece gets connected to this piece which gets connected to this piece, because the pattern does that for you and it's quite simple. But I am going to show you how I'm going to handle my seams, because I'm not going to do it how the pattern says, because patterns tend to not allow you to think about like how you're going to deal with the raw edges, and if you're making a garment that you want to keep wearing and washing, you need to think about this. So I'm going to French seam on this garment. I ummed and ahed about using an overlocker or doing it French seams wise, but I wanted to show you how, if you don't have an overlocker, you can still deal with all the raw edges. So what we've done is we've got the first 2 pieces and we have pinned them together. This is, for this fabric it doesn't really matter whether it's right sides, wrong sides, but it should be wrong sides together so the right side of the fabric is on the outside. And then we've got a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance on this pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch down the side that I've pinned at a 0.5 centimetre seam allowance. And then that leaves you 1 centimetre left for the next step. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll show you once that's sewn. I have stitched along about 0.5 of a centimetre from the edge. You'll struggle to see that because it's obviously grey stitching on a grey fabric. But now what we're going to do is we're going to open it up and iron that flat. Okay, so I've just ironed that flat, and then what you do is at the seam you fold it over and then you pin down and you stitch 1 centimetre from the edge. So this is now right sides together, and you stitch down there, and it just creates a seam where all your raw edges are concealed inside. So I'll show you the finished seam. So this is the outside, which is just nice and neat as you'd usually expect, and then on the inside you've got this bit which has all of your raw edges nicely concealed. This is a really great technique if you're using any see-through fabrics or anything that's really delicate and frays a lot, but equally if you don't have an overlocker and you're wanting to make quality garments that will last through multiple washes, then this is a great one to be using. So I'm going to step and repeat that through all of the long leg seams, and then I'll come back to you either when I'm fitting it or doing the zip, whichever one comes first. Hey guys, so it's been a good few hours since I last saw you, and we have something that resembles a pair of trousers, but are absolutely huge. So I've gone slightly off piece from what the pattern says, because before doing these side seams it said to put the zip in. But because I didn't know how high the waist wanted to be and whether I needed to adjust it, I didn't want to put the zip in yet. So I've constructed the trousers fully, and now I am going to pin it to fit. I've had Chris pin the zip closed for me, so that's all okay. And then we're going to pin this and then adjust the height of the waist, because currently it is huge. So these are pinned so they sit in the right place. The crotch is in the right place, the legs are nice and baggy, and the hemlines will get altered later. But we've got lots of excess up the top. So note to self for next time, we probably don't need to add the extra inch for the waistline. So that can get trimmed off, and then these can get altered. And then I can look at getting the zip in the back and the waistline interfacing on. I've adjusted the waist and got the trousers to fit much nicer around the waist and the hips, and now I'm looking at doing the zip. And I debated a little bit on how I wanted to do this, but I think I am going to follow the instructions on the pattern. What I'm going to do is, here is where the zip goes. It goes in the back seam, and I am going to baste this shut to the seam allowance. I'm then going to put the zip on and undo it, and then one side at a time attach the zip. Then I can take it round to the front, stitch it all down nicely, and then untack the basted seam allowance. I'll show you step by step because I know that's quite confusing. So what I'm going to do is use a really long machine stitch and just close this gap. So then that's in place and I can add the zip. And that also means that when the zip's added, the fabric will fully cover all the teeth rather than having a gap and the zip on show. I have now used the longest machine stitch and closed this gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the zip, I'm going to pin it in place with it closed, and then, or pin one side in place with it closed, open the zip and then stitch the zip to the seam allowance. So I'm not stitching it to the front of the main body of the garment yet, but I am going to stitch it in place to the seam allowance. That is one side of the zip in place, and now I am going to pin this side again just onto the seam allowance and stitch that in place. Also, just to note, I have changed my sewing machine foot from a standard foot to a piping / zipper foot, just so you can get into the teeth a little bit closer. That is attached on both sides now. and I'm going to turn it the other way out. This is where the zip is attached, and we've closed the seam as we did it earlier. So now what we're going to do is basically stitch a box round the opening to attach the front of the garment to the seam allowance and where the zip is at the back, and this will just make it all sit really nicely. I managed to do the zip back up, which should make this a little bit easier, and then once this box of stitching is done, we will unpick down this centre bit that's basted, and that should be a working zip. I haven't done a full box of top stitching around, just because my zip goes down a little bit further than it needs to, but I have unpicked the basting and it does work. So I'll probably go and try those trousers back on the right way out and see how we're looking. So this is one of the nicest bits of making a garment, is the first look when you don't look completely crazy and you can actually try something on. So these are starting to take shape, they're starting to look really good. Very, very happy with the style, I have to say. But what I would say is they're currently sitting a little bit big on the waist still, so we've got a little bit more to take in up here, and then I'm going to get the waist belt done as soon as I'm happy with that. But I'll just show you around the back and then around the front. It's just currently they sit nicely here, but the crotch is a little low, so if we pick the crotch up to where it should be, we just need to take in a little bit more right at the top of the waist. We are looking a lot more like a finished garment now. I've got some hand sewing to do, so what I've done, I don't know if I can quite get a full length view. Let's see if I spin you around this way. Can I get a full length? Yeah. So what I've done is I have ironed the hem up and pinned it because I'm going to hand stitch it. You could machine stitch it, but I feel like the joy of these trousers is they make your legs look really long. And I think by having that line of stitching at the bottom, it's going to slightly ruin or affect that like illusion of like really, really long legs. So I think I want to hand stitch that, and the same with the lining of the waistband, interface of the waistband. I also want to, it's basically got to have the bottom edge folded up and then hand stitched round again, so we don't get a line of stitching going round the belly. And then hopefully that means that they'll stay looking exactly like this. I've got plenty of like loose threads and stuff to trim, and then I'll show you the back. I've got a little bit that I want to do on the back, just where the zip is. It's puckering very, very slightly, so I want to see if I can sort that out. But overall, we're very, very happy with them. So I think the hand stitching will get done tonight, and I will pick back up with you tomorrow and show you the finished garment. So it's now Sunday, and these are the finished trousers. So last night I did the hand sewing, so I hand sewed the hem so that it wouldn't be able to be seen on the outside. It gives a much more seamless finish and much nicer quality to the trousers. And I also hand stitched the bottom line of the waistband, which it's got interfacing on the inside, and the bottom line of the waistband was hand stitched. Just means that they look a lot smarter on the outside. But we're very, very happy with these overall. I've been wearing them all day today just so I can give a honest review on fabric and fit, stuff like that. I think the fabric's beautiful. I was slightly concerned that it would be too thin originally, but actually it's not see-through. With the amount of material that it's got, it gives a really lovely drape and flow to them. I think it's really, really lovely fabric. It doesn't crease too much either. It gives like the linen creased look, but it's very, very wearable. You're not conscious of, oh, these need ironing again, or oh, I can't sit down and wear these. Like, they look very, very natural and very nicely creased. So yeah, we're really, really happy with these. I've styled them up today just in like a 60s sort of style, with a vintage looking t-shirt and then the trousers doing all the talking. But I think easily I'll be wearing these for work with a bodysuit on and a pair of heels. I think they'll be able to be styled in many different ways and worn for lots of different occasions. So if you'd like a styling video on something like these, how many different ways I could style them and what they can be worn for, then that's something I'd quite like to do, and let me know down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It means a lot, and there'll be lots more sewing content coming throughout the summer. So I've got lots of projects coming. If you want a sneak peek to what they might be, if you haven't already seen my sewing haul video, then go give that a watch. But yeah, there'll be lots of sewing and fashion content coming this summer. So if you've enjoyed it, then please keep following along. It'd be lovely for you to join me. And have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye!